Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and based on the new studio look, Luke and Derek are coming to us live from a rave.
I mean, not necessarily a rave, but there is a party going on.
How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Doing really great. Really great.
Great sunny, warm weekend. We finally got some rain on Sunday, so my lawn can stop dying and stop paying astronomical amounts for water. But other than that, fantastic.
Well, guess what? Neither of you is as happy as me right now.
Yeah, I bet.
Could only imagine.
But you want to get into it right away?
Sure. Actually, before we get into it right away, though,
Okay.
I want to make sure I announce that there are spots available in my 6-month online Become a Complete Disc Golfer class. Unlimited number of form reviews. It's the best teaching in disc golf. If you want to get better at disc golf, I mean, that's throw farther, throw more accurately, throw more consistently, and do it without injuries. Go to scottstokely.net and check out my 6-month class.
Do it up.
Sweet. I dig it.
Perfect. And if you take that 6-month class, you may just get third place at the Pro Forester.
Unbelievable, right?
10-13 average for the entire tournament.
No. Oh
no, that's your rating. That's your rating.
My
Excuse
rating.
me. Excuse me.
No, I shot 1040 for the tournament.
Yeah.
Accurate. Needed to click one more page over.
Yes. No, it was my best 3 rounds of golf that I've played definitely since I came back to the sport in 2015. My first complete tournament. I had a couple tournaments last year where I had like a 1040 and a 1030, and then flopped the third round. It was never the third round, but it was like the second round or the first round. But I never had it put it all together. And then about a month ago, I had 3 rounds over 1030. So I've been playing really good, shooting 1020 over the last 6 tournaments. My final round in Scotland, my final tournament round before this tournament, I shot, I think, 1059 or something like that. So, I mean, I've been playing really good golf. But this was the first, this is the big Europe tour. I mean, the UK was great. Southeast Asia was amazing. But this is the tour again. Now we're back to the real world.
Back to the grind.
Back to the grind. And this is the PDGA Euro Tour number 1. Paul Macbeth was there. Basically, this is like the real deal. Like it's it's a lot of the best players in Europe. Some of the best players in Europe are definitely touring in the States, and there were some of the best players were definitely in Scandinavia. Didn't come down. So admittedly, among the Pro Tour events, this was not the strongest field I'm going to face all summer, for sure. But that does not mean there weren't like 30 players that were capable of shredding. There were.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking at the Mixed Pro Open player registration list, and even for us here in the U.S., there's quite a few names on here that we've seen over here before a couple different times. Silver Lat, Jacob Semerad. A few other ones down here on the list as well.
Yeah, Luke Bain, the top player in probably in the Southern Hemisphere. Him and Levi.
New Zealand, right?
He's from Brisbane. They said New Zealand on coverage, but he's from. Now he might have originally been New Zealand. I don't know, but he lives in Brisbane now.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is the big tournament, and this is the start of the season, and this is let's see how much the old man has lost this winter, because every winter I'm going to lose a little bit more. And even though I've been playing really well, this is a whole different game against this new this is the competition. And this course is hard. Oh my God, you guys have no idea.
It looked hard. On coverage, it looked visibly hard.
17 of the 18 holes, if you take a par, you're not mad. The majority of the holes, 14 of the holes, if you I guess 15, 16 because of the OBs, So basically 17 of the holes. If you throw a bad drive, you have to do something very good to get par. So there's 17 holes where if you throw a bad drive, you don't have an easy par no matter what. Like, you have to earn it. You're going to pitch back to the fairway and have to throw another 80 meter, 250, 300 foot approach shot. You're going to have to scramble out of the woods, something.
Although,
And I was predicting before the tournament started, I said 2 over would be 1,000 rated. I was off by a little bit. I think par was like 1,000 rated.
oh wow.
But to give you an idea, against this really strong field, the third easiest hole on the course was hole 1. So the third easiest hole on the course played even.
Wow.
So basically you have 15 holes that averaged par or over. And so
That's nuts.
it's insane. I said going into it that I said if I shot a couple under each round, I wasn't going to be upset. I mean, I'm trying to shoot better, obviously trying to compete to win.
Right.
But I said if I'm under par each round, that's like 1,010. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm not going to be upset. Under par is good. And I also said, I told everybody, I said that when you're talking about how to play, what your goals are for this course, and I said, if you want to shoot well out here, you need to limit yourself to 2 bogeys around with no doubles. But I basically conceded 2 bogeys around and said 2 bogeys around. If I have 2 bogeys around, I'm going to get, I'm going to get some birdies. I'm going to probably be under par.
For sure.
And I shot the first round. I shot a 5 under bogey free. And yeah, I was so excited. But I missed the lead card by a stroke. I missed coverage by a stroke after the first round. And so I was
second round looks even better.
I know. I'm like, damn. And then the second round, I shot 6 under, bogey free. Nobody in the field was bogey free after 2 rounds. Not even close. I mean, Paul might have been close.
No, he had a bogey
Paul.
on.
He doesn't count.
He had a bogey on hole 2 in round 2.
Okay, there we go. So, yeah, I said that doesn't count. Paul's Paul. But against mortals.
Yeah, right.
I was, but I was the only bogey free player after 2 rounds. But I shot a 6 under, and I tied Silverlot and I forget his name, another player, for 4th place. But since I had the lowest PDGA number, because I'm elderly, I got to play on the lead card on coverage for the final round.
Sick.
I gotta say, so.
And by the way, my first 2 rounds were like 10-30 something, and then 10-40 something, or something like that.
Yeah. So shout out to MDG Media, because that's where I caught the coverage from, doing really cool things.
They did a great job.
They were paying you a lot of respect on coverage. I don't know if you checked it out, but
I haven't listened to it yet. I'm going to listen to it tonight.
Yeah, they use the term scramble master, because there was a few ridiculous shots that you got to save your par, to get up and down. And then they were also giving you a lot of props, like as far as your booming forehand on that set you up for eagle. I forget what hole that is.
Hole 15.
Final round. Yeah. That was massive, and they were incredibly impressed by that. But yeah, they had a lot of good things to say about you.
I was my first 2 rounds. I was 100% scramble, but that was because I only threw it off the fairway 3 times in 2 rounds.
Right.
So I scrambled 3 for 3. It wasn't like 9 for 9 because my drives were so good. So 33 out of 36 holes I put in the fairway with my sidearm, which is why you should take my class, everyone. Boom, there's marketing.
That was actually something I wanted to ask you about. It seemed like, I mean, I only saw your coverage on the final round, but it seemed like you were leaning on your forehand heavy. And I was curious why you were choosing to go forehand when most people would go backhand. You were choosing to do like an understable flip over with your forehand. Why is that?
I will explain that. So what I tell everyone is that you want to be 50-50 backhand sidearm, not because you need to have 2 deliveries, but because you need to spin the disc both directions, because every hole has a favorable spin. It's a backhand spin. It's basically you want to throw hyzers or S-turns certain ways, but there's always, or not always, but usually one way that's better than the other.
Mhm.
A perfect player is going to be balanced between backhand and sidearm, if on an evenly balanced course. That's what should happen with a perfect player. I am an imperfect player. I have a really good backhand. Actually, ironically, I drove 6 holes backhand at the tournament. I birdied all 6 holes. So I didn't miss a single birdie with a backhand this tournament. But those are on some of the more open holes.
Mm-hmm.
There are courses where I'll throw more backhands than sidearms, but on most courses, I'm pretty close to 50-50. When I get into the woods, there are certainly holes, about, I would say 50% of the holes in the woods favor a backhand spin, meaning you want the disc to fade to, for me, right-handed to the left as opposed to the right. So they are backhand spin holes to birdie. However, I have to weigh that against the fact that I'm an imperfect player. I am more accurate with my sidearm. So on a course like this, where if you get off the fairway, you're scrambling like you need a great shot to par or you're going to bogey, I would trade in the favorable flight path on a hole in exchange for throwing a shot with a higher percentage of hitting that first gap and staying in the fairway. And so a lot of those holes, and I still birdie some of the flip up shots. I mean, all the time I birdie those holes, not as often as I would backhand, but I don't bogey them. So it's a conservative play. Like, I'm going to hit the first gap. I'm going to make the first gap. I actually missed the first gap twice on coverage, but I didn't miss the first gap at all. Sorry, I missed it 3 times in 36 holes the first 2 rounds with the sidearm. And it's not the right shot, but it's the right shot based on my skill set. And again, I'm really close to 50-50 on most courses, but when you get into the woods and a bad shot is a bogey, forget it. I'm gonna throw the sidearm every time, and totally content with my pars. And that's the way I approached that course. The course was, I thought 1,000 rated was par, so I thought if I just keep it on the fairway, take a bogey or 2, throw 3 or 4 in. That was my thought process, and it turned out I made more than that.
Yeah, and you were putting well. They even made it a point to say it on coverage that you were putting really well during that final round. And I mean, I guess I don't know enough about your game to say like, oh no, that's a normal putting performance from Scott Stokely, but the putter was hot.
That's honestly, once I made the switch for the second half of last year, it's probably pretty standard. I think I was, for the second half of last year, I bet I was somewhere around top 50 in the world putting. I wasn't Paul or Calvin or Ricky, but I was not at the bottom of the field either. I was probably middle of the pack on the Pro Tour, but middle of the pack Pro Tour is like really good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that, I would say, honestly, that's kind of what I've been doing for the past like 8 or 9 months. Pretty standard.
Heck yeah. I gotta say, I haven't checked out too much of like European coverage, but I'm kind of enjoying it a lot. It brings me back to when I first started watching like Jomez and stuff, where I didn't know all the players, I didn't know their games, I didn't know their form, I didn't know how they usually shoot. So like getting to see, like, I've seen Jakob before, but the Luke Bain, right, is his last name?
Yeah. Luke Bain from Australia.
Yeah, like I've never seen him before on coverage or otherwise. So getting to see his game now, I don't know if that final round was just a fluke kind of round for him. He was having hard times getting off the tee, putting the disc where he wanted to, but he was hitting putts from everywhere, getting really close, and that was really cool to see from a player that I had no idea existed until literally earlier today.
He's a solid. I mean, right now he's a solid 1,000 rated player who's out touring and is going to just get better. You know, and he got he was on. He played a great second round to stay on lead card.
Right.
And I mean, he had some rough holes on the final round, but when you add them to the first 2 rounds and put them together, he had a very high percentage of good shots, which is why he finished, I think, 6th place, 7th, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Tied for 6th.
Yeah.
Tied for 6th.
Yeah. He's a great player.
Shot a 1023 for the event.
Yeah,
not bad
so,
for a
I mean,
thousand rated player.
Yep, 1002 rated player.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed, man, everything about this got me so excited because when I think of European disc golf, I think of courses like that, where it's like a good mix of open and heavily wooded holes where you have to be in the fairway, but also in certain parts of the fairway. And
Right.
that's the kind of disc golf I enjoy. So, like, getting to watch that and watch new players, man, everything about European disc golf is exciting to me. Like I said, I didn't catch any of the Zootown Open, but I catch all of the Pro Forester. Like, it was really cool to see.
Kristen Tatar won another one at the Zootown Open. And Evan Scott took first place in MPO with only 2 rounds played because they ended up canceling the 3rd round due to weather.
Yeah, and I want to make a point about that too, because I hope that nobody feels like there's an asterisk next to it, because there was a 3rd round canceled. He had built a 3-stroke lead going into the last round.
Absolutely.
So I think it's fair to say he was probably going to win.
Yep, I
at least enough
that
so that this doesn't take away from the victory. By any stroke. I mean, it doesn't matter if he was ahead by a stroke; it's still a victory. That's just the rules of the game. But the way he was playing, he was like 75% circle 2 putting and 100% circle 1.
Yeah, he played ridiculous. Lights out both round 1 and 2.
How old is he? Isn't he like 15?
He's 15.
That's insane.
And no, he also. What was that?
17.
Go ahead, Scott.
17. I think he's 17. And the reason why I say this is because.
Who am I thinking of? That's 15. It's the other kid that's 15.
You think of the other kid, the one that just came out?
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
No, Evan, Jake Mon, and another player are all from Columbia, South. I can't remember his name, and I feel so bad. Oh my God, he's such a cool kid.
He just was on lead card recently, wasn't he?
I don't recall. Jake Mon? No, but it's Jake Mon, Evan. But there's 3 of them from Columbia, Missouri, who were all. I was there 2 years ago. They were all 3 of them were 15 years old. All 3 of them were 994 or 995 rated. They're within 1 rating point of each other, 15 years old in the same small town.
Yeah, that's insane.
And then they're all out touring.
Yeah,
Micah.
That's so cool.
Micah.
Oh, Micah Groff.
Yeah. So they're all. They were 15 when I met them, so I guess one could be 16 or 18 right now, but but they're basically 17.
Well, to be fair, whether they were 17, 18, or 19, to me that still feels like 15. So
yeah, well, Evan had played really well even in the tournament the prior weekend. He was like pushing for like lead card final day, and he's been playing really well the last several weeks.
Yeah, and Jake's. I mean, all these kids are good, and the thing is that they're cool kids.
Right.
I like all 3 of them. I really enjoy being around, and I've gotten to spend time with all 3 of them a little bit, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's cool getting to see these young kids where their game is not polished. It's not, they haven't hit their ceiling yet. And you get to watch them come up and you get to watch them make mistakes. And then you get to watch them the next weekend or 2 weekends after that not make that mistake again. You get to watch them kind of like climb the ladder, learn from their mistakes, and put themselves in situations that they need to be in to be successful on tour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like you get to watch these kids grow up through the lens of them playing disc golf. It's actually really cool. I enjoy it.
It is. And I said this so many times, every single player on tour I like. There's nothing to dislike about it. It's like you can pick someone to root for, but you're like, there's like, if you're like a fan, well, I mean, hopefully there's a lot of people out there who are fans. And if you're a fan, for sure, root for your guy or your girl, root for your brand, your company, but you can't get mad when the other player wins because they're awesome. It's not like I'm in Denver. I mean, if the Raiders beat the Broncos, that's horrible.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're mad. It's the Oakland Raiders. Don't correct me. It's the Oakland Raiders. And it's like there are no Oakland Raiders on the tour. It's like everyone's just kind of nice.
Right. Actually, we got to go back a little bit. We forgot to mention that with your third place finish, you got yourself your invite to European Open and USDGC, I believe, correct?
Round of applause. Round of applause for Mr. Scott
Thank
Stokely.
you. Yeah, I qualified for USDGC. I qualified for the European Championships. And it's the thing that's really nice about it is I didn't qualify on a Tuesday qualifier where I played a good round. I wasn't given a token card because, whoa, he's old, been playing for a while, and he brings an audience to coverage. Like I actually just earned it on the course against my peers, and that was really good. You know, I got interviewed afterwards, and one of the things I said, which was nice, was that I made Paul and Jakob earn it. Now, obviously, Paul won by a bunch. He shot like 1070 something, which is what Paul does.
Yeah.
But I shot close to Paul's rating.
Right.
Which tells you how good Paul is when I'm like ecstatic over how I shot, and I shot just under his average, right?
Right. Yeah, and you made him not rest on his laurels, like he had.
No, but yeah, I mean, I shot his rating, which meant if I shoot Paul Macbeth's rating, it means I played well enough to win. Paul had to have a good tournament, and he did. He had a great tournament, and then of course there's so many players that are good enough to also have a 1050 tournament, which Jakob did. That happens. But it's like I played well enough. Play that tournament 10 times. 1040 is going to win one or two of those 10. So I played well enough to have won on a given weekend, and that is mind blowing to me. That I just mind blown. That's the only words for it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Now, with that, do you plan on coming back to the States to play in USDGC?
That I don't know. I did sign up for I immediately got my invitation and signed up for the European Championships. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know when the date is. I know that I'm going to be applying to go to Spain for the two
European Championship.
The European
Pro Tour Championship or whatever.
The Tour Championships and the All-Stars on the
yes,
the European Pro Tour. And then after that, oh God, what was it? There's something going on after that. What was it? Something in October. Oh, was I going to India? I honestly, I don't know. It's so far away.
Just going to India or whatever. No big deal.
I can't keep track.
We're just going to go ride elephants. That's fine.
No, not elephants. I told the person I'm going with, I want to ride on top of a train.
Oh, even better.
No, it's more than that. And I don't care what it costs. I want to ride on top of the train with a bunch of Bollywood dancers behind me, all dressed in like pretty dresses, doing the dance. Like I've seen the videos. I know that's what happens in India. When people ride on top of the trains, everybody does choreographed
Bollywood dancers just pop out and start a dance number.
Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. And I want to be on that train. No, so it's really funny. I told him, I said, I'll tell you, hey, I have an announcement to make.
Ooh.
I have a new sponsor, which this ties into the India thing, which was I'm now sponsored by Heiser Flex golf bags.
Okay.
And which they're amazing golf bags. I'll be posting videos and pictures of them in the upcoming days, weeks, years. And Heiser Flex rangefinder, which is a much less expensive rangefinder that works fantastic and actually talks to you in English. The first time I shot it, it says out loud, it told me the distance in feet, and I was like, "The hell just happened?" My rangefinder's talking to me, but it's great. But so I was looking for a bag sponsor. This is like 6 months ago or something. And I was talking to different bag companies. And when I was talking to the guy from Heiser Flex, he's Indian. He's in Finland, but he's from India. But loves disc golf and is making these bags. And we started talking about this, and the topic of golf bags and sponsorships went off topic. And he says, "Oh yeah, I'll be in India this winter, meeting with a bunch of like mayors and governors and political officials about bringing disc golf to India. And I said, "You're my bag sponsor."
Heck
And he
yeah.
says, he said, "Well, we haven't even discussed what we're gonna like pay you." And I said, "I already told you, you're my bag sponsor. I don't. Well, let's talk about details later. I want to go to India with you." And so we're going to go to India with him, and we're going to travel around on the tops of trains. I told him I don't like flying, so we're not going to fly from city to city. We're going to ride on tops of trains, but we're going to go from city to city, meeting with all these government officials that he has contact with to bring disc golf there. And I'm going to get to be a part of it. So I'm going to be in India riding on tops of trains. But
That'll be so awesome.
well, he told me, this is what he said to me. And this just shows you that even though he's from India, he doesn't know everything. He told me that they don't do that in India.
I've seen the movies, sir.
I said, I beg to differ. I said, I don't care what you've seen. I've seen Bollywood dancers on top of train. I don't care. Yeah, sure, it was a music video. Yeah, go ahead and use that old story.
Tell me that's not real.
Just for your records, USDGC this year is October 5th, 2023 to October 8th, 2023. Just if you want to mentally note that back in the back of that awesome
Beginning of October.
Beginning of October.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, if you do plan on coming stateside, we actually are planning to go to USDGC
We will be
this
at
year.
USDGC.
So if you do come stateside, we could do a few live OTCs, maybe get some interviews, do a whole thing.
I will definitely keep it in mind. I would love to go to USDGC, but if it's that or trying to get courses in India, I'm going to India.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, yeah, if it's that ride on top of the trains, it's trains every time.
Yes. Don't forget the dancers. I won't do it without dancers.
What's the minimum amount of dancers that you'll accept?
60.
60? That's about right.
In fact, I don't want to say anything, but if it goes well, then next time I go to a DGPT tournament, I'm going to have 60 Bollywood dancers following me on the course as well.
I mean, so in India, you could probably just throw a rock and hit 60 Bollywood dancers, I'm sure.
I tell you what, I'm going to start a trend. Everyone's going to have their own Bollywood dancers on the course. No, I just was like so excited. The idea of going to India with somebody who's Indian, who speaks the language and knows the culture and can get around, but has the contacts. We're going to meet with government officials, people that can actually make these decisions. That's the important part.
For sure. Well, that sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah. So something more to add about this event. So we actually stayed at the same apartment, not same apartment, but there are several apartments. And one of the other apartments was the president and founder of the Ukraine Disc Golf Club. And there's a video on my YouTube channel that I did with him about disc golf in Ukraine, which is a strange thing to talk about because there's far more important things happening in Ukraine right now than disc golf. But that was the interesting story that I wanted to share, which is, well, we've seen the videos, we've seen the news,
right?
What is happening with your world outside of the front line of the war. And we talked all about that, and real nice guy. Met his wife, his kid. We rode with him to the course, went out to eat. I actually made for my tournament donation, because all my prize money, which I had a good amount of prize money this tournament. Yay!
I did see that. Just a couple dollars under a solid G bar.
Yes, and so before the tournament, I announced that 50% of the money was going to go towards this an autism organization that I named, and the other 50% was going to go towards a disc golf club in Ukraine that had their city bombed a few times recently. That was trying to put a disc golf course in because people need things to do. And so 50% of the money went to this Ukraine club. Then I found out, I guess this morning, that the autism organization, or the Down syndrome organization that I named to get the other half, they're actually a government sponsored organization. They can't take donations. So I
Oh,
couldn't
dang.
donate the other half to them. Yeah. So, but they have, if they're government sponsored, they have money, they have funding, which is great. So I donated the other half of the prize money also to the Ukraine Disc Golf Club to try to get a course in.
That's
sick.
awesome.
That's so awesome.
So
Yeah,
all the money went there.
wouldn't it be great to have someone join the pro tour from the Ukraine that started on a disc golf course that you helped build or bring to
Oh,
their city? Would be amazing.
it would be amazing. Well, it's a very small part. I mean, if I did anything, I paid for a couple baskets. I mean,
Right.
the club's going to do far more than I'm doing. I'm just doing a little bit. The part that's so interesting about it, though, is, you know, and this is what I told him or them with the family. It's like as an American, I know that the war is real. Obviously it's happening, but there's something about when it happens 5,000 miles away and you see it on television. It's real. It's not real,
Right.
right? There's some disconnect there. I mean, there's a civil war going on in Sudan. Lots of people are being killed. That's not real if you're in the West, just because it's so far away and it's in another world. Um, well, when you're here, when you meet the people, it becomes a lot more real. So he shows me, this is like, the fact that this is normalized is so gross. But he says, "Oh, I just got an alert on my phone." He pulls out his phone. He goes, "Yeah, my city's being bombed right now."
Dang.
It's a phone
Jeez.
app. It's a phone app. Someone actually wrote a program for a phone app to alert you when there's incoming Russian rockets. And when you get that alert, you have like several minutes to not enough time to get to a bomb shelter. So you have to go inside behind two walls, which if it lands direct, it's not going to do a damn bit of good.
Right.
But when there's rockets, all you can do is hide. But you get alerted with a phone app. Oh, you might die.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn,
That's,
this is so real.
I was going to say, that's
And
very surreal.
it is. And what's interesting is Ukraine recognizes disc golf as a professional sport, believe it or not. Even though the sport's brand new there, the way they recognize it is that if you're an athlete, oh, let me back up. Every male between the ages of 18 and 55 is not allowed to leave the country. Some people left right at the beginning, but
Mhm.
since the very beginning, you cannot leave the country if you're under 55 years old, because they may call on you to strap a gun to you and throw you on the front line. Like that's
That's
a real
insane.
thing. That it's a real thing, and you're not allowed to leave the country. So he may get called to the front lines at any point, and but because because people still got to work and live life. There are certain professions, such as if you're like a musician or some type of performance artist, if you're a professional athlete, if you need to leave the country to pursue your job or your career, ply your trade, whatever you want to call it, you can get a pass to leave, but you have to come back. So disc golf is recognized as a sport in Ukraine, which means they gave him a 10-day pass to come compete in this tournament.
Oh,
He
wow.
still has to go back because they might need to call him to war.
Right.
But
Yeah.
they give him permission to leave because, well, you're a professional disc golfer, you're a professional athlete, you need to be able to go to tournaments. So
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword because it's this really cool thing that it's recognized. And then it's very uncool that he's forced to go back.
Yeah. That's the situation exists to begin with.
Yeah. That's
It's
insane that in
bad.
the course of a day, throwing a grenade could mean two separate things.
Yeah.
That's so wild.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. Like I'm not political. I don't take sides. I don't do anything controversial. This is not controversial to me. Like, I'm definitely on the side of Ukraine here and the people there. That's pretty black and white in my eyes. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I'm glad I got to meet them. I cannot wait to go to Ukraine uh, and see my friends there, and hopefully they're all okay still.
Yeah.
Hopes and prayers.
Yeah. So, for the final round, do you want to hear about the final round?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, because you saw the coverage. So spoilers.
Spoilers.
There's no spoilers in sports.
Yeah, no, I guess there wasn't. I mean, there's not much story to once the final round. It's just that it was cool because I was on coverage, and I was only on coverage once last year on the DGPT, on Disc Golf Network, and I shot a 1026 rated round, which is really good.
Yeah.
And actually the headline of the highlights was Stokely shreds, and it's 1026 rated, which is like middle of the pack, but it's for me, right? They're like Stokely shreds because it's above my rating. But when you only get a couple times on coverage, you don't want to have them go badly. Yeah, because that can happen. Anybody can have two bad rounds. If you're on coverage twice and you have two bad rounds, no one even sees you play well. So it's a little bit stressful, but I got my first bogey of the tournament on hole 2, and then I bogeyed again on hole 3 at the beginning of the round.
I saw that one. Ooh, started off rough, but
yeah, it started off rough.
Reeled it in.
But I birdied hole 7 and then went on to birdie 6 holes in a row, and then pulled away from the pack, and it was now a 2-man race for second place. Paul was off and running. I think I was tied with Paul after like 13 holes or 14 holes for the round.
Mm-hmm.
But me and Jakob were tied with like 4 holes to go, and then Jakob decided to make every circle 2 putt for the rest of the round.
Bombing putts, no problem.
Yeah, that's one of those things.
And what interests me about Jakob's putting form is, so when I know in every tutorial that I've ever seen, it's always, shake hands with the basket. He spins it, and then his arms back down at his side every time. He's just spinning it out there, and it's so accurate. And I'm like, man, if I did that, I'd be spraying all over the place, but he has it down. It's so cool to watch.
Yeah, well, the leaving the hand out is the reason it's important to leave your hand out. I call it the golden rule of putting. Is it because it provides feedback on where your release point was, and you or where your follow through was, I should say, because the most important rule of putting is to aim with your follow through. Putt, and then when the disc leaves your hand, your follow throughs at the basket. As soon as the disc is in the air, technically you can pull your hand away because you're no longer affecting the flight of the disc. The problem with pulling your hand away, which is why I call it the golden rule to leave your hand up, is that if you pull your hand away, you have no idea if you aimed with your follow through, because you can follow through anywhere and some putts still go in. The thing that a good player can get away with, I still don't think anybody should do this, but a good player can get away with, they have put in the thousands and thousands of hours of practice, so they're aiming with their follow through, so they don't necessarily need the feedback as much as somebody who's trying to develop their putt.
Right.
I still think they should. It's basically like, here, this is what it's like. It's like leaving the hand up in basketball after the shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like leaving the cue down after striking the ball in billiards. It's keeping your head down after you strike the putt in ball golf and the ball's rolling to the hole and your head's still down. It's just the same philosophy as that. Leaving the hand up is just basically holding that posture an exaggerated amount of time past where it was technically necessary, because the ball has left your hand, left the cue, left the club. But you exaggerate it as a way of forcing the position to be there.
Right.
So it doesn't mean a good player can't get away with not doing that. It's just that it's not the best way to learn, for sure.
It's a quicker way to gain that consistency, I think, which what everybody is really looking for when it comes to putting.
Yeah, and Jakob's the world putting champion actually right now. He is a ridiculous putter, and when you watch the finals, I mean, he throws in 3 putts. I believe 2 or 3 putts well outside of circle 2 at the end of the round. I'm like, all right, you can have second place.
It's yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's whenever I see like a new player struggling with their putt, I mean, the very first tip I give them, like, hey, just shake hands with the basket. And it's helped several times for new players. But oh man, that's awesome. But then you see someone like Jakob who doesn't do that, and you're like, man, if that beginner saw you doing what you're doing right now, they'd call me a liar.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't look at outliers. You can't look at, and I mean, technically, the disc has left your hand. You can start doing cartwheels at that point, and it doesn't affect the flight of the disc. It's just that it's just there is a process of learning and building the muscle memory in the brain and getting feedback as to what you did. You know, the other example I always give in my clinics is I always joke and I say, have you ever had a round where all your putts keep missing low? And everybody laughs because everybody can relate to that. Then I say to them, I go, silly question. I say, but it segues to the real question. And the real question is, when you're having a round and you keep missing low, when you step up to putt, do you think to yourself, God, why am I missing low this round? And then you think, man, I hope I don't miss low on this putt. And everybody kind of laughs because that's a normal thought process, right?
Right.
And then I say to them, let me reword what I just said. I have no idea why I'm missing, and I hope it just gets better. All right, that is not how you get good at something. You don't know why it's not working, and you hope it changes.
Yeah, it'll figure itself out.
Yes. If you leave your hand up, you have immediate feedback as to what went wrong in that putt. If your follow throughs up here, and it missed low, you released early. If your follow throughs here in the right spot and you release low, it means the nose was down or you didn't putt hard enough. If you followed through too low, then it means you didn't get your hand up. But that's the feedback where you could literally on the second hole of the tournament after missing low on hole 1, know what caused it, make a conscious decision to correct it on hole 2. That's an extremely powerful tool to have in your bag, all because you left your hand up. That's it. I mean, that's why you do it. And so when you're really good and you don't miss putts and this is all you do, and you're like, okay, you kind of get away with not having to do that. Every once in a while you miss a putt, but you're 93% circle 1X. Okay, well, you don't miss that many. Right. But if you're a player who's developing their game without that feedback, I would challenge you to get good fast. That's why you got to take my online class. I mean, my online class is basically filled with this.
I was just about to plug that. You can learn all that and more on your 6 months course to become a complete disc golfer at scottstokely.net.
Learn how to talk. Tried to say words and just nothing came out.
No, that's hey, this is that's why the class is so good. I mean, this is things like this I've built up over a lifetime of what works, what doesn't work. Look at all the players on the Pro Tour. They're doing this, and this is why you should. And then there's players on the Pro Tour doing this. Here's why they're wrong, but here's why they can get away with it.
Right.
Speaking of getting away, that was perfect segue, by the way, Scott. Thank you very much.
You.
Speaking of getting away with things, so I watched a video this afternoon regarding some things that all disc golfers may be doing that are considered illegal per the PDGA guidelines. And this was from a well-respected attorney. I think it's Paul Ulibarri's attorney, if I'm not mistaken.
His name is Chris at discgolf.law.
Correct. Yes. And he had posted a video today kind of going over a few things that I found super interesting. Luke found super interesting. A few of those things that the biggest question was altering discs and some of the things that currently take place after production that would technically per PDGA guideline be considered illegal, such as team stamps. A lot of local shops, local pro shops, things of that nature, they will purchase discs in bulk or have discs in stock, and they'll have their own little custom mini stamp, that they will have hot stamped on the disc after production, that they will give out to their, little pro shop team members and things like that. That technically per PDGA guideline, depending on the thickness, and that's where the question comes into play, is like the thickness of the material that's being applied. Um, depending on the thickness, can be considered illegally altering the weight of the disc or applying a material of too much thickness
Yeah,
to the top
discernible thickness.
of discernible thickness to the top of the disc. Um, we're seeing that a lot, especially like here in like the Michigan local scene, even, which is kind of a super interesting thing. A lot of the local sponsors or local shops that do sponsor players provide team stamp discs with these added stamps on top. They're hot stamped just like a standard production stamp would be. But I found that super duper interesting because there's a lot of that we're seeing with dyeing or adding hot stamps. Or me personally, what I found super interesting was that wiping the stamp of a disc is technically per PDGA guideline considering altering the disc because you are removing some version of weight from the top of that disc,
at least thickness at the very
or
least. Yeah.
thickness, correct. But my problem with that question is what's the difference between wiping a stamp and disc wear?
So I don't know if the PDJ defines like what an alternate disc is by weight, but writing your name on a disc with a marker makes it heavier.
Right.
Yeah.
And they said that is allowed. So
Allowed.
anything that adheres and becomes
Or
one with the
absorbs.
plastic. Yeah.
Yes, anything that is absorbed or is taken in by the plastic itself is considered legal. So a Sharpie marker or a lot of like the disc dyeing that we're seeing, where white discs are being changed colors and cool designs and stuff are being added, that's considered legal because it's being absorbed into the disc and not necessarily adding any amount of thickness or such as that. But the disc wiping one I found super interesting because wiping the stamp off of the top of a disc, putters particularly, is something I do. I will wipe a brand new putter stamp off the top of a putter just because of my OCD and finger placement, and I don't want to have to think so much about where I'm placing my hand when I go to putt. But I find that interesting because there's not much difference between wiping the stamp off or a putter that you may use for 3, 4, 5 years in a row, and the stamp just wears off over that 3 or 5 years. There's not much difference in my opinion, but one technically is legal and one is not.
So my feeling on that would be that like this is what lawyers are supposed to do.
Right.
Like their job is to basically play semantics with the law. They're not their job isn't to follow the spirit of the law. Like the law never follows the spirit of the law. It follows the wording of the law. Right?
Right.
And it's like it's one of those things where like okay, that it's like it's a fun conversation, but like if nobody has a problem with it, then cool, that's a little fun little neat little asterisk next to some detail in the rules, but no one has a problem with it. So like
Yeah, I think that was the biggest topic of conversation in the video was, one, there's not any record of like a documented case where somebody was like kicked out of a PDGA sanctioned tournament because of a hot stamp or because of Sharpie or because of wiping a stamp. But what I definitely found interesting was kind of the way it was approached was like, it's up to the players, because tournament directors aren't going to be sitting weighing discs per disc weight of what that regulation should be before a tournament, or they're not going to be inspecting every player's bag prior to a tournament to determine if they have wiped discs or things like that, an illegal disc in their bag. So it technically would be falling on the players. It would, a player technically could say, for a wiped disc, for instance, oh, well, that's an illegally altered disc. And per PDGA guideline, somebody could second it, and it would then fall on the tournament director to make the decision on whether or not that disc was determined as being an illegal disc. I found it interesting because it seemed to me like it was like trying to be like, hey, if you've ever experienced this, we'd like to know about it. And if you haven't, maybe you should find out, kind of thing. And it was like, well, I really hope the next tournament that I go to, I do not have somebody calling me out for my wiped putters, because my OCD runs my life, unfortunately.
I will.
Face.
Yeah.
I'll call you out.
I wish that they're like, there is a spirit of the game. Like,
yeah.
I can't, like, there's something intentionally trying to circumvent the rules to gain a competitive advantage is one thing, and even playing semantics to gain a competitive advantage is just kind of, I think it's lame, because people can do that. They're like, well, based on this, the rule says that, and I could then do this. It's like, there's the spirit of the rule, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope that trumps everything. Although the problem with that is that the spirit of the game becomes subjective. That's why lawyers exist, because it's the non-subjective part of these things. But I hope it's not an issue. My feeling is it's a moot point, because no player is gonna call it, but because no one has a problem with it.
I agree. I've never had a problem. Somebody could have a piece of duct tape holding their piece of frisbee together. Like, if you want to throw the duct tape frisbee on the par 4 or 700 feet, go for it. Like, doesn't make a difference to me.
Yeah, this is one of those things, like I would be pretty confident, and this would not take long. I'm sure we could find, if we spent 15 minutes in the NBA rule book, where there's players in the NBA breaking rules.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what are you gonna do? But there's the game. It almost reminds me of what's that movie, Air Bud? I've never even seen it.
Oh, dude, I was just literally about to make that reference.
Such a goated movie.
Tell me where it says in the rules that a dog can't play basketball.
Yeah, and that's like, okay, great. That's but that's like intentionally trying to circumvent the rules. But then there is also like intentionally trying to circumvent the rules in a way that is like considered clever.
Right.
Like, do you remember they're speaking of dogs? Do you remember the I think it was a college game, it's a high school game, the barking dog play? No. The team, there's a team about to inbound the ball like that. I forget the exact details, but basically they were like down by a point with like 2 seconds to go. They're about to inbound the ball. One of the players on their team in the middle of the court drops down to all fours and starts barking like a dog. When all the players on the other team look at him, they pass the ball in, and he lays it up for the win.
Not technically against the rules.
It's not against the rules, and I would consider that clever. It's like pretending to hand the baseball back to the pitcher when you're the first baseman. That's
Statue of Liberty play.
Statue of Liberty play. Those are perfectly acceptable, because I don't feel like that's a violation of the spirit of the game. But you could have people that have a problem with it, and they would think that that's legal but lame.
I think things like that are in the spirit of the game, in my opinion. Like, somebody who is extremely passionate about it had to have come up with something like that.
Well, so have you heard about the hockey coach from like 50 or 70 years ago? I could be getting the details wrong, but he's an old school hockey coach. That there's so many rules in the rule book against that are in the rules book, because he would break the rule in a certain situation, which is, there's nowhere in the rules that says dogs can't play basketball. And so he would break the rule and then would do it until they changed the rule. Like, for example, one of the examples would be when they pulled their goalie. When you pull your goalie, you got 6 on 5, but of course there's no goalie, which meant you could like literally shoot the puck from halfway across the ice and score, right?
Right.
So he removes his goalie, but there's no rule that says the goalie can't accidentally drop his gloves and his skates and his stick in front of the net. There was no rule against that. So he pulls his goalie, and the goalie drops all of his gear in front of the net and then goes, sits on the bench and blocks the net. Turns out that's legal. Well, it turns out it used to be legal.
It used to be legal.
But there's oh god, there's a whole video. It's on. I'll try to find it's on SB
I was going to
Nation.
say, I think we'd have some crazy Stanley Cup playoffs if that was.
It was
still legal.
amazing. It was this one coach that kept breaking rules. Like they were all that good. Like I don't know if that's spirit of the game, but we're talking about it 50 years later, so it's probably pretty cool.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that's even happened in disc golf. The Lloyd Wema rule. You know about this?
No.
Was a man named Lloyd Wema. This is before they started adding minimum rating requirements, but he was 850 if he even had a rating. He was pretty low rated, but he would make it into these pro tour events and he would always come in last place and shoot like plus 47 for the event, just, creating holdups and wait times and all this. And it became an issue, but he was just doing it for the experience because there was no rule saying that he can't get into this pro tour event. He paid the money, he could play.
Yeah,
and then they started doing minimum rating requirements, and they call it the Lloyd Wema rule because now he couldn't get into the pro tour event and shoot a plus 50 for the event.
Hey, hats off to him. I give him all the credit in the world for that. That doesn't violate the spirit of the game.
No.
Anybody that thinks it violated the spirit of the game, they need to give back his entry fee that they won and spent.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You can't take his entry fee and then have a problem with it.
All I know is you'll never find me with an illegal disc because I barely even put my name on them.
That's accurate because you still have discs that have my name on them.
Yep.
No, so that's always a question, and it's like that's just I think sometimes, at least for me, my gut just tells me like, really, like you're just being shitty.
Yeah, I just found it super interesting that was just like it was a different take that I had never heard, especially from somebody who, since I've started playing disc golf, I've wiped the stamp off my putters because it's just I don't like to think about where my finger placement is going to be.
Okay, here we go. I'll give you another one then. Every single player on tour has broken the 30-second rule.
Oh, absolutely.
We see it every weekend.
Everyone. And so when do you call it? Well, you call it when it starts to be a problem. As long as it seems reasonable and it feels reasonable to the group and everybody kind of knows what is reasonable, then it's not a problem. But that rule allows you to stop what is unreasonable. Now, people have different opinions about what reasonable is, but I think the consensus is fairly close to reality. And generally, the way the consensus works is this. When a player is not a slow player and they step up to their lie and they have to look around for their shot, and then they go, I got the wrong disc, and they run back for their disc, and they're probably breaking the 30-second rule. When they're not a slow player, it's conceded that like, okay, well, that's happened to me. It's happened to you. It's going to happen to this person. It's not an issue. And it's not that everybody's allowing the rule to be broken. It's just that the spirit of the game is like, I mean, everyone breaks that rule.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know what the answer is, but a lawyer can't, the law does not say spirit of the game or spirit of the law. The law says this is what the words
black and white. Yeah.
Yes. This is what the words say.
Or you're going to jail.
And that's all that matters. When we go off air, I'll tell you a story about that too.
Deal.
Sorry, I gotta save it off air.
Perfect.
I actually had an idea that came to me. So obviously this past weekend, Evan Scott wins Zootown Open. It's a silver series. Now,
silver event.
Thank you.
Because I've had you correct me 47 times when I've said that.
When you said that, I was like, God, I wish I didn't say that. Anyways, now this is a silver event, but there's no
part of the silver series.
And that's kind of part of my point is there's no series anymore. So what I originally thought and what was originally conveyed was that silver events, formerly the silver series, was going to start to be more towards a qualifying series for the elite series events where you could earn your tour card on the silver series. Now it's just a silver event where anybody can join, whether they have their tour card, they can just sign up. And there's a small qualifying tour that goes around to certain events where you get a certain amount of points that's separate from DGPT points. And if you're the winner of that, I think it's maybe top 3 in that. Could be wrong. I have to fact check that, but you get a limited tour card for 2024, which is only good for 6 events. So why doesn't is probably a better way to put it. We have a qualifying tour like we were kind of expected and told we were going to get. Why are we shifted away from not giving, lesser known or younger talent a chance to earn their tour card fully with this other tour? And we're now just letting these smaller silver events become basically pro tour event light with no like ratings. Like if you have in my eyes, if a silver event should be, if you have your tour card, you cannot play in a silver event. It should be a series that allows people to make their way on tour, and we don't have that at the moment. It's a silver event's become just an elite
Well,
series event that the top players decide they're not going to play.
well, but there's not enough Elite Series events to fill the whole tour, though, right now. If there
Well,
was
I guess how
40 or
many?
if there were like 40 Elite Series events or 40 or 45 or some massive amount, that wouldn't be an issue. But those are real events. I mean, I get what you're saying, but there isn't a full series of just elite events right now. And I think there's restructuring happening because the idea of the PDJ Euro Tour, and who knows what's going to happen with the European Pro Tour, the other tour, as far as what gets absorbed, and like there's some stuff happening right now. Like there's some big moving and shaking going on, and so whatever's happening right now, I suspect is not going to be happening next year, because there's so many different things happening. I mean, there's a reason why Paul's out on the European tour.
Mm-hmm.
Putting eyes on this tour is there's a reason for it.
And
And so,
it seems like Mr. Scott Stokely knows the reason that we do not.
no, I do not know
No?
any of the details, but when there's smoke, there's fire. I mean,
Mhm.
why is Paul here? Paul's here because because this tour is now the European disc golf is now on the radar of the disc golf pro tour.
Mhm.
I'm not. No one's told me this. It just seems logical that this is what you would do. So they're airing things on Disc Golf Network out here. I'm not saying they're going to merge or anything like that. I'm not making any predictions.
Right.
Just I think there's going to be I feel like the ties are going to be stronger. When the ties get stronger, then you're adding more quality events and more quality courses with more quality players. You may have more moving pieces to work with, as far as then you have more qualifying systems in place. But right now there's just not, I don't think there's enough, Elite Series events to justify that, not allowing those players to play at the silver. You'd be limiting to them, like 12 tournaments a year or something, or I don't know if that's that few, maybe it's 15
Plus
but it's
majors.
not
I'm not
many.
sure how many Elite Series events, but you could also restructure the point where there's a lot of Silver Series events that you could then move
merge
up
into Elite
series
Series,
events,
and then
and
the
then
remainder leave as like Silver Series
a qualifying tour,
events.
maybe throw some more indie tiers in
Absolutely.
there. Because
Absolutely. You could
right now,
also,
I just feel like we see Evan Scott, who's a young guy, and he's playing on the actual pro tour. But what about, a guy like Luke Bain, like 1,000 rated guy that was fairly unknown. I had never heard of him until this weekend. Like, what about those guys? What do those guys have to do to try to get on tour, to earn their way on tour, besides now winning, you know, this limited qualifying series that only gets them into 6 events for 2024? I mean, obviously, some guys that have their tour card now have the potential to fall off. So it's not like, well, it's like, oh, we don't just have enough tour cards. Like, where do these kids get the chance to come up? I'm guessing. Like, how do they break in?
Yeah, no, that's tough. That is a tough one because when they give out tour cards and there's a certain number of spots available and people can win their tour cards on the tour, I don't know exactly how that's going to work. I hope the way it works is that every tour out there, every region has qualifiers for that region.
Hmm.
Like I don't care what the level of play is, say in Australia and New Zealand, because they go back and forth a fair amount down there. But it's like you need to designate some spots from that part of the world, even if it means excluding some players maybe with a higher rating in the U.S. I think you still got to designate a couple spots out here, a couple spots, like coming out of Asia. Like I think those are
Hmm.
mandatory. But like what you're saying is right. I mean, you can have two simultaneous tours. You have the qualifying tour. They do that in ball golf, right? You have the
Yeah,
qualifying tour.
the penny farthing.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, and they're going to have more events to do this with. I mean, the tour is just like, the thing to keep in mind is that the tour was an experiment.
Right.
Money was invested. I believe, and I haven't, this is not firsthand, but from what I gather, the tour made money last year, but that was the first time. Um, the tour is a business and a product. And if that business product, it has to eventually start showing a profit or else it doesn't exist.
Right.
Yep.
When you invest in it, you carry it for some amount of time, but eventually it's, it has to make a profit. And I think it did make a profit. And now with that comes like the goal of expansion, and, putting it all under one umbrella, I think is like, I think that's a really, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about it is that there is like competition is good for everybody. So out here, there's the PDGA Euro Tour and there's the European Pro Tour. There's
Right.
also the Prodigy Tour in Finland, and there's a Swedish Tour. But the two big ones are European Pro Tour and PDGA Euro Tour. And the talk from everybody is, why won't these just combine? They got conflicting dates, conflicting schedules.
Hmm.
They should be combined and it would be better for everybody. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. Not necessarily, because the fact that they're both vying to get the best players at their events means they're competing. That is good for everybody in this situation. I think the competition is good, but I think that the Disc Golf Pro Tour is becoming so powerful that I think in this case, absorbing like these tours into the Disc Golf Pro Tour would be a good decision for everybody. Just because the Disc Golf Pro Tour has funding, it has recognition now, it has all the pieces in place to make the other tours better. Generally, monopolies aren't good, but
Right.
a monopoly from a good company is a great thing. It's just that that isn't always the case in the real world. The Disc Golf Pro Tour is a great thing. Those are great people that care about the sport, they're making great decisions. So at the moment, I think the monopoly, I think, is fine, because I know the people involved in the organization, and they're good people.
Right. Yeah. I guess my worry was, or still is. I mean, it's yet to be seen that it's gonna be really hard to break in, because disc golf's a sport where your career could last a lot longer than another traditional, or like baseball. I mean, I guess they play into their 40s, but like it's
I
not
don't
as
think so.
hard onto your body, so you could play for a longer time. I mean, look at you, Mr. Scott Stokely, taking the
Yeah,
pro course.
but
Well,
it's
but what
going to
about
be
the young kids?
no, it's going to be baseball level play. There's going to be it'll be a bell curve of like age 20. It'll be age 20 to 32, and then
Right.
and
Well,
then a couple years before and 5 years after. But those are like exceptions. Like, no,
mhm,
it's going to be a young person. It's a sport.
right.
It,
I
it,
guess
it
the difference between disc golf and baseball is, A, there's more baseball teams and they're all disc golf tours, and some people ride the bench and never come off it. You can't do that in disc golf. So it's like there's always going to be maybe like a limited amount of spots no matter what. And some people can sit in those spots for a long time given the nature of the game. So I'm wondering, how do we get these young professionals to be able to get their name
Yeah.
out there without being, top 3, not being a Gannon Burr who became, I wouldn't say overnight, but who's a prodigy. How do we get these younger kids to have an opportunity to break in?
Well, it really just what it's going to be is like how many people the pro tour allows to keep their spots, and how many. It's really like they're going to create the algorithm. Do 10% of the tour players not make their card each year? Do 30% not make their card each year?
Right.
So that's going to be their decision, like to how many people, and you can even base this on something as simple as ratings, like how many players out there not on the tour have ratings higher than some of the players with tour cards. And if there's 20 of them, then you probably need to open up 20 spots and let them fight for it.
Right.
And then I think the one thing you can always do is you can always have qualifying tournaments. And they do this in other major sports. They have a qualifying tournament Tuesday before that's just open to anyone on the planet that wants to come, donate their money and give it a shot, which means you can win your way back onto the tour. So even if you don't make the tour, or you're not good enough to make the tour by, your point systems, or maybe you're in college or you have a job and you can't make enough events to build the points, in theory, you can still go to a qualifying tournament, show that you're good enough to get one of those 5 spots, play the tournament, show that you're good enough to get whatever finish it takes to give you another card for a year. Like, I like the idea of being able to play your way on every single tournament. That way, no one could ever say, I got pushed out. It's like, what do you mean you got pushed out? Show up on Tuesday and qualify. Oh, well, that's too much work. Oh, it costs too much money. What if I don't qualify? Well, that's a fair argument, but it negates your argument that you weren't given an opportunity.
Accurate, fair, and factual statement, good sir.
But by the way, this will probably, I don't know how much this will exclude me. I got on and when I got my tour card last year, I mean, that had something to do with not on pure merit. On currently, like right now, I'm playing good. My rating's going to jump to almost 1,020 tomorrow. Yeah. And so, like, yeah, clearly I'm playing good enough to be out there. But they took a leap of faith when I was coming back to allow me on the tour. But they were also there were promotional reasons. Like I brought an audience of people that weren't watching the pro tour. They were watching me, and so it was good for the tour to have me out there. And there's a lot of reasons why it made sense. I didn't know that people had nothing to do with them liking me, or like some good old boys network or friendships or nepotism or anything like that. It was a business decision, but it was a good one. But does that happen? Would that happen for me again? Probably not. I mean, I think if I wanted to go back on the tour, I'd have to earn my spot like everybody else, and it's damn hard to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So, except for USDGC, I qualified for that.
There you go. You at least got the one.
Got the one.
Well, all the talk of European Pro Tour, the Euro Tour. Where are you going to be, sir, before we wrap this up?
Kona Peace. I'm going to be in the Czech Republic. I'm in the Czech Republic now. I'm in the parking lot of a grocery store in Brno.
Heck yeah.
I did a clinic today. But in my studio, my fancy, this might look like the inside of an RV, but actually
I've spent millions of dollars to make it look like an RV.
On my studio. This is all CGI. I'm sitting in front of a green screen of an RV in the parking lot of a grocery store.
In the Czech Republic.
In the Czech Republic. No, they're I'm gonna be in the Czech Republic, and then I'll be competing. I'll be up in Norway. Where the hell am I going to be in Norway? Krokol. Thank you. I'll be in Krokol, Norway after that. And then I'll be Scandinavia the rest of the season.
Heck yeah. And then you are playing European Open?
I am. I qualified.
Heck yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna be, and I'm sure I'll qualify for the championship tournaments in Spain if I can get a visa extension. Yeah, no, I played my way into I earned my spot this weekend. The very first tournament. I didn't have to like last year I didn't qualify for USDGC and I got within 2 strokes of qualified for USDGC, but all season long as we were getting closer, I'm like, damn, now I only have 2 tournaments left. Damn, 1 tournament left. And so yeah, getting it out of the way early. Like I've already done all the qualifying I have to do for everything. Like the first tournament of the season. So now I can just, I don't want to say relax. I'm still trying to win, but
Right. Now it's smooth sailing though. Less pressure.
yeah, no pressure.
Sick.
Oh, heck yeah. What do we got coming up this week?
Never pressure.
You got DDO coming up this week?
Yep, DDO this weekend, baby.
DDO coming up this weekend. So we'll definitely have to talk about that. And then we'll talk about, it's Kona Peach Day this weekend as well?
It's this weekend as well.
We'll talk about Kona Peach Day and
Yeah.
and whatever else pops up in the disc golf world next week.
Absolutely.
Yep. I got one more thing to add then.
Okay.
There's a documentary called Not Just a
Yes.
Shot. It's at notjustashot.com. It's the best disc golf content I've ever seen produced. And it's not because I did it. I had nothing to do with it. Kendra Mueller, the filmmaker, made this beautiful film, notjustashot.com. I could not recommend it any stronger. Watch it, review it, share it to your social media. Tell everybody about it. It's really, really, really good. So I hope everybody checks it out.
Sick. Check it out. Not Just a Shot.
Perfect.
Not Just a Shot.
All right.
All right.
Well, with that, we'll guess we'll talk to you next week, Scott.
Have a great day.
All right. Thanks. Love the set, by the way. Perfect,
Thanks.
guys.
All right. See you, Scott.
Thanks, guys.